Hey folks, sorry I'm not in class today. I wanted to make sure, however, that you guys are going to do awesome on that quiz. So I thought it'd be great if you come in, log into my homework page, and you'd start off kind of with a video of me kind of reviewing how do we graph these square root functions. So what I want to do is, in this little time we have together, I want to go over two separate graphs, both of which are the harder type where we should make a table, okay? And then we're going to go over the answers to your homework. Now again, your homework was in the ebook. It was 1 through 6, and I did pass out a screenshot when I had you last class. So I just want you to take a look at it, make sure you did it right, and hand that in. So first things first, let's start a little brief review for this quiz. Okay, so if you don't already have a piece of graph paper, I want you to pause this movie, okay? Go to the back of the room, grab a piece of graph paper, write down these two functions so that you're totally ready, okay? And we're just going to hop right into graphing them, all right? So looking at our first one, we have 3 times the square root of x minus 3 plus 4. So right now you're like, oh, there's adding and subtracting. I should use shortcuts. And you can if you want to. But when you multiply, that should throw up a red flag. You should say, oh, when we multiply on the outside, or if we multiply on the inside, we're going to have to make a table. So that's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to start by making my little XY chart. Oops. Now I pick 3 values for my x, and I don't just pick any 3. They have to be very thoughtful. So in my head, I'm thinking, what are the 3 lowest perfect squares? Well, 0, 1, and 4. So what I want is I want my inside to equal 0, I want my inside to equal 1, and I want my inside to equal 4. And I'm going to figure that out mathematically by actually writing it out. I'm going to say I want my inside, which is x minus 3, to equal 0. So I'm going to add 3, and I get that x equals 3. That's going to be my first x value I plug into the table. My next one is I want the inside to equal 1. Okay, that way I can solve it in my head. So I'm going to add 3, and my second value I'm going to plug in is going to be 4. My last one, I take my inside and I set it equal to the next lowest perfect square, which is 4. I'm going to add 3, that means I'm going to be dealing with 7, okay? This just got me ready for my table. Now that I have my table made, I'm going to plug in each of these values here and solve. So let's start with a 3. I plug it in on the inside. So I have 3 minus 3. You always solve inside your root first. And 3 minus 3 is 0. So I have 3 square root of 0 plus 4 on the outside. Now I need to solve my root. Square root of 0 is 0 plus 4. And 3 times 0 is 0 plus 4 is going to give me my answer, which is 4. So for my first point, I'm going to go over 3 and up 1, 2, 3, 4 and put a dot. Okay? There's going to be no values to the left of this. They'd all be imaginary solutions. They all would be negatives under the root sign. So now I'm going to erase my work for the 4. Okay, I'm going to erase it all off. Or for the 3, excuse me. Oops, I should have kept the point though. Over 3, up 4. And now I'm going to do the same work, but I'm going to plug in 4 instead. So there's going to be a 4 here. So first things first, 4 minus 3, 1. I have to solve this, okay? Don't just say 1. Remember, you're square rooting that 1. Square root of 1 is 1. Follow order of operations, multiply before you add. 3 times 1 is 3, and 3 plus 4 is going to give me 7. So when I plugged in 4, I got out 7. So that means I'm going to graph it. I go over 4, up 4, 5, 6, and 7. This is pretty darn steep, which makes sense because when we multiply, it makes it steeper. Let's do our last point for this graph, and then we're done, and we'll move to our next one, okay? Our last point is 7, so I'm going to plug in 7 for x. 7 minus 3 is 4. I knew that, folks, because I made it that way, right? We got the 7 when we did this. I wanted my inside to be 4. I'm going to solve this. Square root of 4 is 2, okay? Don't let them trick you. The 0 was 0, the 1 was 1, but square root of 4 is not 4, it's 2. Again, I multiply before I add subtract, so I'm going to have 6 plus 4. I'm going to end up with a 10 here. So I'm going to go over to 7, and all the way up to 10 right here. And boom, I connect it and it continues that way. There's no arrow in this direction because again, if it went over anymore, it's going to be into imaginary solutions. It can't exist, so it's not going to, okay? This is what your graph should look for our first problem here. Let's look at the second one now, okay? This one looks a heck of a lot easier than that one, doesn't it? However, if I'm thinking, okay, it's got subtraction, maybe I can use my shortcut, but you can't, again, because you're multiplying, okay? If we're multiplying, we automatically make our little XY chart. And we pick our 3 X's. We don't just pick them willy-nilly, okay? We want our inside to equal 1. We want our inside to equal 0. We want our inside to equal 4. And that's what I'm going to write. My inside, I want it to equal 0. My inside, I want it to equal 1. And my inside, I want it to equal 4. The 4 smallest perfect squares. So now to get my x's, I'm just going to get this x alone. Divide by 2, divide by 2, I get 0. So my first x value is going to be 0. Divide by 2, divide by 2, my second x value is going to be 1/2. And then divide by 2, divide by 2, my last one is going to be the number 2. So I'm going to plug in these 3 values for x into my function here. So let's switch up this color. I'm going to start with 0, so I'm going to take that x out and I'm going to put in a 0. So under my root sign right now, I have 2 times 0 minus 3. Well, 2 times 0 is 0. Under the root sign, though, so square root of 0 is 0. And 0 minus 3 is going to be a negative 3. I'm going to erase that up. I'm going to plot it over 0, down 3. Now I'm going to go to my next point. I'm going to plug in 1/2 here. Now, to do a whole number times a fraction, we could put that over 1, go across the top, across the bottoms, and we get 1, or 2 over 2, which is 1. So we're left with square root of 1 minus 3. Well, square root of 1 is 1 minus 3, and 1 minus 3 is negative 2. Last one for this problem. I'm going to take out that x and I plug in 2. So I do under my root sign first. 2 times 2, 4. Square root of 4. Again, with the 4, don't forget to square root it. The square root of 4 is 2, and 2 minus 3 is negative 1. Okay. Now, I'm going to erase that. Oops, I forgot to plot my last point. For my green point, I'm going to go over 1/2 of a box. Okay, it's not very far over. And down 2, right there. Okay, 1/2 of a box and down 2. And for my last one, I'm going to go over 2 boxes, and I'm going to go down 1. This is my graph. It's only going in the direction of my last point. Okay, last point. You can do a table for every problem, even if they're easier ones where you don't multiply. If you're not sure what to do, make a table, okay? Do the same idea. The inside equals 0, inside equals 1, inside equals 4. This works every time to help you graph these, okay? It doesn't seem like a shortcut, but if you don't figure out that end point, it isn't going to be the right graph, okay? You have to have that starting point, and then it has to be your 3 smallest perfect squares. Hopefully, this was enough review for you that you're feeling okay, all right? If you were absent, I know a couple of you were absent. If you bomb it, then we'll practice a little more and I'll let you retake it, okay? But for now, I want you to give it a go. And I know that hopefully you've checked in and gotten help, okay, if you needed it. Before you get started on this quiz, let's take a quick second and let's just go over your homework, okay? So if you need to, pause the video again, put this sheet to the side, and pull out your homework sheet, okay? Remember, it was a screenshot. It was these 6 problems, okay? A lot of you did number 7, which required that you use a calculator and you calculate what those square roots are on the bottom, but that wasn't actually part of the assignment. The assignment was 1 through 6. So let's take a look here, okay? Last time we were together, we talked about nth roots, which means we could be dealing with square roots, but we could also be dealing with roots that have different index numbers. Remember, the index number is the number on it. If there's no number on your root sign, it's implied that it's just a square root. Its index would be 2, okay? So in problems like number 1, we go to our whole number. You could factor tree it, or you could say to yourself, this is a square root. Do you know the square root of 100? I certainly hope you do. 10 times 10 is 100. So I'm going to put my 10. Then, and this was the new stuff, we realized that we can use this index number and divide it by our exponent. And if it divides nicely, we can pull it on the outside. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. It divided nicely. I'm going to pull out a y to the 4th on the outside and tack on a plus or minus because there's a plus or minus in our original. There's my answer to number 1. Let's take a look at number 2. We're dealing with a square root again, right? There's no number there, which implies that it's going to be a 2. It is a square root. So I'm going to square root 49, and hopefully that's something you're familiar with. Square root of 49 is 7. But I'm going to put a negative 7 because there's already a negative on the outside. Then I go to each of my variables. I know I take that exponent and I divide it by my index. 8 divided by 2 is going to be a u to the 4th. 12 divided by 2 is going to be 6, so it's going to be a v to the 6th. And there's my answer. I'm done. These are awesome, right? They're very quick, easy, as long as you know what you need to do. 3 looks tricky, but it's not, okay? It still has an index number of 2, even though it's invisible, right? It's a square root. Because these items are in parentheses, I'm not going to square root the y in a negative 6. Instead, I'm going to look at the exponent attached to it, and I'm going to divide that. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So I'm going to have a y minus 6 in parentheses to the 4th. That's it. I'm done. I don't have to do anything else. I'm finished. Let's look over here. Here's where it gets different. Now we're really into our nth roots. And nth roots, when there's exponents, and this isn't 2, that still seems easy, but what gets trickier is what do we do with this number? You want to say, oh, the square root of 16 is 4, and you'd be right, but we're not looking for square root, we're looking for 4th root. So the way we handle this is we write this 16 and we're going to factor tree it. So I'm going to write it here. 16, you might be saying, is 4 and 4, which is true, but 4 can be broken into 2 and 2, and 2 and 2. Now, because this is a 4th root, in order to pull a number on the outside of my root sign, it has to happen 4 times. In the past, we've looked for pairs of numbers, right? Because it was a square root. Well, in a 4th root, and check out 16, you have to look for 4 of the same number. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This is like 2 to the 4th power. Boom, I can pull a 2 on the outside. Now, 16 divided by 4 is going to give me a g to the 4th. And 24 divided by 4 is going to give me an h to the 6th. Then I'm done. So if it's any power, or even if it's a number that's square rooted and you're not sure about it, factor tree it, folks. And you're going to pull out groups of numbers that equal your index. So 4 numbers have to happen in order for me to pull it on the outside. Let's take a look over here. This is a blast from the past right now. I have a square root sign. And so I'm like, oh, square root of 16, I know that's 4. But what is the square root of negative 16? And this might trick you up a little bit. We usually say you can't have a square root of a negative, right? Because no number times itself is going to be a negative. Like a negative times a negative would be a positive. That means we're going to have something special here. We're going to have an I. Remember back to imaginary numbers? Yeah, you're probably like, oh, miserable, okay? This negative 16, we don't pull out the negative. It's a square root. You can't have some number times itself. We're going to pull out a 4 for the 16. And when we pull out this negative, we're actually pulling out an I. So we have 4i. And then, again, my index is 2. So I'm going to do 4 divided by 2, y squared. Boom. Okay? That's some review right there. Imaginary numbers. Okay? Last homework problem, then I'll let you go, pass in your homework, and get the quiz from the sub. We have a 6th root here. 6th root. So that means when I factor tree 64, some number has to happen 6 times, okay? So let's erase the 16, get it out of the way. 64, let's do 8 and 8. Now I am not using 8. It's not about pairs of numbers. 6 of them have to happen, so I'm going to keep going. 4 and 2. And then this 4 can be broken into 2 and 2. So look, 6th root, 1, 2, 3. Oh, look, 4, 5, 6. In order for you to pull a number on the outside, it has to happen 6 times here. 6th root, 2 happens 6 times. So that means I can pull out a 2. Okay? It happens 6 times. It's a sixth root. Pull out a 2. You can check that by doing 2 to the 6th power. It should equal 64. Now the next one, you're like, oh, so what am I going to do here with this one? Well, look, this whole chunk is in parentheses, and it's attached, or this exponent is attached to the parentheses. So we're just going to simplify that and keep it in parentheses. Who cares, okay? So I'm still going to have a 2y plus 1. But on the outside, I'm going to have 18 divided by 6, which is 3. Boom, there's my answer. I'm done. Okay, if it's in parentheses, it stays in parentheses. You just divide that exponent power on the outside. If it's a whole number not in parentheses, you have to factor tree it, and you pull out whatever number happens as many as the index. If no number happened this many times, 6 times, like say this 2 only happened 4 times or something, you keep the 64 on the inside, and that's all you can do. Okay? And we're actually going to talk about that specifically more on class on Monday. Okay, so you won't have to worry about that necessarily for now. So I want you to really take your time on your quiz. Okay, you're done with this. Make sure your name's on your homework. Hand it in. That quiz only has 5 graphs. There's going to be a couple that have to have tables. But again, if you want to, you could do tables for every single one of them. But make sure you choose the right X values. Okay, there's going to be no homework. And if you get the quiz done early, awesome. Be nice to the sub and be quiet so that everyone else is getting the best test-taking opportunity, or excuse me, the best test-taking environment that they can. Okay? I will see you on Monday, and I hope you have a great day. Good luck on your quiz, passing your homework. Catch you later. Bye.